Hey guys, welcome to the fourth tutorial in the materials lab where we're going to be talking about microscopes and how to operate them. So let's get right into it. So there's two microscopes that we're going to be talking about today. The first one is the reflective microscope, and the second one is the inverted microscope. But to start, we're going to be talking about the reflective microscope. So a microscope is used to view a sample at a very high magnification. So you're probably going to be using it on something like this, which you'll probably make in your labs. So to start, what you want to do is turn on the microscope using the switch at the back. Then a little light will appear on the bed of the microscope. That's where you're going to place your sample so that you could view it in the microscope. So once you've set your sample onto the bed of the microscope, now you can change the magnification of which you're going to view your sample. So on this knob, we have many different magnifications, each with their own magnification written on them. You have 5 times magnification, you have 10, you have 20, and so on. But the thing to keep in mind is that inside the microscope, there's already a times 10 magnification built in. So any value that's written on the magnification lenses is actually multiplied by 10. So keep that in mind when you're doing your labs. Now before you start to actually view your sample in the microscope, you need to know that there's a knob on the right side that allows you to change what you're viewing through. So if the knob is all the way in, then you can only view the sample through the microscope. If you take it halfway out, then you can view it through the microscope and through the computer. And if you take it all the way out, then it's just through the computer. So it's a good idea to just keep it halfway so that you can see it through the microscope and through the computer at the same time if you want to. So now what I'm going to do is plug in the computer and open the program so we can have the live feed and we can be able to see through the microscope as well. So for the orientation of the plug that goes into the camera on the top of the microscope, you want to make sure that it goes in this way because that's the way it fits in. So start by turning on the laptop. So you want to open the program on the desktop called Scope Image. It's a blue icon, just double click that. So what we have right now is just a blue screen for our live feed. So what we need to do right now is look into the microscope and using the adjustment knobs on the right side or the left side of the microscope, we have to adjust the height of the bed of the microscope so that the sample comes into focus. So now we have our sample in focus, so we can come back to the computer and take a snapshot of what we can see. So go to the top left corner underneath File, click on it, and it'll take a snapshot. Then you can save it as whatever you want to call it onto the desktop or wherever you want to place it, and click Save. So there's a couple of things to keep in mind. One is that with this microscope, or with any of the microscopes really, is that you don't even need to look through both eye holes, just the right side one, because it's a little difficult to line up both of them. So just looking through one of them is perfectly fine. The second thing that you want to keep in mind is that the sample placed here may not be exactly flat to the bed. So as you're focusing it, the live feed will show you that not the entire image is in focus. Only partial parts of the actual frame are in focus and the rest of it is out of focus. So that's why we prefer to use the inverted microscope. So let's take a look at that. So for the inverted microscope, we have the bed of the microscope at the back, and also when we're placing our sample, instead of placing it upright, we're placing it upside down because the light source comes from underneath. Also, the light source is external, so we have to turn the external light source on and the microscope on as well before we can actually place our sample. Now, when we're placing our sample, there's a little mirror on the left side that we can look at to line up our sample with the light source that's coming through. So now we have our sample set up, we can turn on the computer and make sure that we have this knob out. It's the same thing with the previous microscope. We want it about halfway through so that we can see through both the microscope and the computer. So you want to make sure that you have the wire connected from the computer to the camera as well. Now we can open the Scope Image program. So now we have our live view. So now we're going to go to the microscope, fine adjust it so we can get a clearer view. So now we have our sample in focus again. The only difference with this microscope is that the coloration is slightly more warm. so don't worry about that too much. But now we can again take our snapshot, save it, and you're good to go. So one thing you'll notice when you're getting your sample into focus is that it was much easier with the inverted microscope as opposed to the reflective microscope. And this is because we have our sample. Before, on the reflective microscope, it was upright. So the bottom of this surface may not have been flat. It may have been uneven, which has caused the frame that we had in focus to be partially in focus. So not all of what we saw was in focus. However, with the inverted microscope, we have our top level is perfectly flat because we were able to make it that way. So now when we have it upside down onto the bed of the inverted microscope, it's now perfectly flat. So when we get into focus, the entire frame is in focus. The only drawback is that now the coloration on this microscope is slightly warm, a little bit more yellow, but that's okay. We can get the entire frame into focus. So when you're focusing onto your sample, you may notice that your sample or the image that you're seeing is very bright or very dark. So on the external light source, there's a little knob over here that you can turn from right to left to adjust the brightness of the image that we can see through the microscope and through the computer. There's a similar setup on the reflective microscope, but it's just a knob on the base. So that's it for the microscopes. I hope you guys learned a thing or two, and hopefully we'll see you in the next tutorial.